Senior lawyers in the Northern Territory are objecting to new mandatory sentencing laws, which they say are contributing to a surge of prisoners into Territory's jails. The Territory not only leads Australia, but also comes third in global rankings after the US and China for the rate at which it puts people behind bars. Lateline's Ginny Stein was granted rare permission to film in a remote court to witness the legal system at work. On the proviso, defendants weren't identified.
Today is looking like business as usual in the Nhulunbuy local court.
Assault, resist, disorderly assault, drink driving, assault, disorderly assault.
More than 80 cases listed, many with multiple charges. The two defence lawyers in court are going to have to move fast.
It's quite quick. It's quite often as described as the sausage factory.
Nhulunbuy, at the top of Australia, is an isolated mining town on the wane, built on Aboriginal land.
Silence or stand. The Nhulunbuy Court of Summary Jurisdiction is now in session.
Earlier this year, the Territory Government increased minimum jail times for offenders while restricting judges' rights to suspend sentences for certain crimes. Today, a young woman and mother of 4, we'll call Gloria, is facing jail.
She acknowledges that assaulting the victim in the manner that she did was wrong.
She has admitted to drunkenly hitting another woman who taunted her about the death of her mother.
What do you say about the harm that she's caused to this lady?
A blood nose and soreness to her chest is the prosecution's submission that it is interference with health.
Under the Territory's new laws, every first-time offender convicted of a violent offence faces 3 months in jail. It's 12 months for repeat offenders. Magistrates' hands have been tied.
And the test is that unless you can establish some exceptional circumstances, then I must sentence this lady to 3 months imprisonment.
This is a tough case for all involved. Gloria has only appeared in court once before for a minor offence. Before the new laws were brought in, she most likely would have been released with a fine.
It was a spur of the moment thing. It's not something that she needs deterrence from because she's an habitual offender. She's not finding herself before the court time and time again.
Given the circumstances, you will be remanded in custody overnight, and I'll see you back in court tomorrow for sentencing.
The Northern Territory has the highest imprisonment rate in the country. Mandatory sentencing has led to a further increase in the numbers of Aboriginal people being sentenced to jail. Across the country, Indigenous people comprise more than a quarter of the prison population, but in the Northern Territory, it's closer to 90%.
I think those statistics are at one level pretty depressing. The fact of the matter is that we continue to fill the jails up.
But now, even amongst those called on to enforce the law, there is growing disquiet about the Territory's approach to justice.
I think if you'd asked any operational cop out on the street, have things vastly changed, particularly those of us who've been around for 20, 25 years, the answer would probably be no.
The Northern Territory's Attorney-General was the driving force behind the reintroduction of mandatory sentencing. A former policeman, John Elferink, began his policing career in remote Aboriginal communities.
We have run a number of what are called controversial policies, and they are controversial because they have said to individuals, you will be accountable for your actions. And we have introduced mandatory sentencing for those biff merchants that go around in the community thumping people.
Yes, there are people who definitely do need to go to jail, and we do agree with that. But when you've got at least 50% are in there for 6 months or less for minor offences, why are taxpayers paying $110,000 a year to keep them there? Why aren't there alternatives to prison?
For Magistrate Greg Smith, deciding the fate of one woman with the limits already set is no easy matter.
We get criticised on one side of the fence because there is a significant number of Aboriginal people in custody. On the other side, we're told you might be too lenient in terms of violent conduct. So you're sort of caught between those two issues.
Are you troubled by it? I mean, your hands are tied by this.
I am. It's one of those matters where it's not as bad as it might have been, But whenever you've got those circumstances where your sense is that you would have done something a little different, then it's troubling if you're required to sentence to someone to 3 months when you might have kept it to a month or 2 months. Now, those are not big figures, but in the lives of individuals, they do make a difference.
Daniel Briggs believes that far from helping, mandatory sentencing is making things worse for both individuals and the community.
It's a young woman who has no real trouble before in her life. I just don't see how incarcerating her is going to benefit the community, how it's going to benefit her or her family. I don't see how it's going to be a specific deterrent to her. I don't believe that there are...
And for once, adversaries in court appear to be in agreement.
No, it doesn't deter offenders generally, and sometimes it bears no consequence in relation to offenders who are sentenced. They come back and simply re-offend again.
Do you have heart about what's going on in the community? Do you think things can get better?
Absolutely. I think as not only a police officer but as a prosecutor, education and rehabilitation type courses would significantly impact on the type of offending that occurs within this jurisdiction.
And is there enough of that?
I don't think there is.
With no exceptional circumstances offered, Magistrate Smith the next day handed down his sentence, 3 months, as mandated by Parliament. It's now up to Gloria's family to care for her children, including her 2-year-old son, while she's locked up inside. Ginny, Stein, Lateline.